Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us with another episode of Behind the Curtain. My name is Carly, and I'm going to be the moderator for today. If you're watching with us live, welcome, and we would love to see you participate by sending any questions or comments you have in the live chat down below. And if you're watching with us after hours, again, welcome, and we would love to hear your feedback. You can put any comments on our YouTube channel, or you can email us at info@majestictheater.com. And lastly, if programming like this is something that you value, then we would love to see you go over to majestictheater.com and give us a donation. But without further ado, I'd love to introduce Floyd and Danny. Hey guys, thanks for being here today.
Hey there, Carly. Thank you.
All right, have fun.
Will do. So, hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Hi, Floyd.
Hey, Danny, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. Hey, a couple quick announcements for you folks who may be tuned in. My guest next week, the one and only Liz Zeminski. She's living in New York now and works for BAM, the Brooklyn Academy of Music. But, she got her start right here at the Majestic Theater, actually at Williston when I was teaching there. So Liz will be my guest next week. And then this coming Tuesday, if anyone might be interested, we are doing a reading. We've got some great actors assembled. Going to do a reading of my newest play. It's called The Lady Slipper. And so that's next Tuesday at 7:00. And you have to get a link to that via our website, majestictheater.com. So check it out, please. Okay, here we go. Floyd, how are you?
I'm fine, Danny. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So we got to run down a bunch of questions, and it's really pretty casual, it's the kind of things that if we were doing a talk back after a show, people might ask you about, So I guess the first thing is, where did you grow up?
I was born in New York, Rockville Center, New York. And I lived there for about 5 years. In 1965, we moved here to Springfield, and I've been here ever since. So basically, Springfield is my home. But my start was in New York. That's where we lived.
Yeah.
For the early part of my life.
Yep. Well, I probably mentioned this to you at some point or another over the past few years. Many years we've known one another. As a high school kid, I worked at this sort of chicken takeout restaurant called Chicken Treat. It was located right on Sumner Avenue beside Gus and Paul's.
Sure.
And we also made pizzas, and I ended up being the pizza maker guy. But sometimes I would be delivering stuff, and I can remember delivering pizzas to your house up there on Harkness Avenue.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
I had to have been very young, Danny, but I'm sure that pizza was real good.
It was a pretty good pizza. I think so. Yeah. So we've had a connection. We've had a couple different connections, I guess.
Did we tip you? Did we tip you well for that delivery? I hope.
I think you did. I think so. Oh boy, it's funny, isn't it? How the circles. So when did your relationship with Majestic? How did that start?
Oh boy, I remember. Well, like anyone, you have an interest. You want to find a way to get your feet wet, and to, you want to find a start. And I had read in the paper that you were doing some auditions. You're doing casting calls, some auditions for your season. And I said, let me go check this out. So I remember going in, and I remember just being thrilled to finally be initiating something that I was, curious and interested about, and wanted to get some information. And I knew, what you had going on was a real serious thing because of the amount of people that came out, and and I just really wanted to see what opportunities I could immerse myself into and start my learning process regarding acting. But I went in, and I just wanted to again, as I said, find a way to get involved. And I remember watching some auditions that day, and I remember you saying to me, how are you going to play music on the weekends? And at the same time, do a show, because your shows run,
Right.
several weeks, and sometimes they're held over. How are you going to do that? And I didn't even really give that some thought. I just said, just go for it. But I wondered the same thing. How am I going to juggle both things? So I remember when I walked out of the theater, I was pondering that, thinking, how would I work that out? And then I didn't think about it anymore. And then when you called and offered me Paul Robeson, that because it was something that you thought might be doable, and it's a very portable show. I right away I lit up and I said, "Wow, here's an opportunity." So let's do it. I don't know how many years ago. 20 years ago, over 20 years ago.
Over 20, I think.
Yeah. But it was great. It was a thrill to finally get going and to start the learning process and getting involved. But I always had a curiosity. I just didn't know how to go about getting into, just like music. I mean, you start playing the backyard parties for families and doing little gigs with kids around the neighborhood, and then before you know it, things start to grow and get more involved, and that's what ended up happening with the Majestic. But it was a great thing. I really enjoyed every time I've ever stepped foot in there, I've always had an enjoyable time. So it's been nice. And I want to thank you for that opportunity and all the opportunities you've given all of us artists over the years. So,
hey, do you? Here's a little message from Todd. He says, "Good to see you, Floyd."
Yeah, good to see you, Todd. Well, good to see your words anyway. Good to hear from you.
Do you remember? I seem to recall. This is completely out of the blue here. I seem to recall a young kid that also grew up on Harkness Avenue, I think further up from where you lived. Okay. His house was on the right-hand side of the street going toward East Long Meadow. And he was a drummer, I think, but he was a young kid and he was a really accomplished drummer. Do you recall that at all?
Wow. I'm not sure, unless we played together. I'm not sure who you're referring to. There were quite a few musicians, but at that time, I mean, when I really started, doing, I don't want to say playing out, but just connecting with people that had the same interest that I had. Because I mean, as a teenager, a lot of times, if you're not into sports or your music or having your own livelihoods going on, you're hanging out idle. So at that time, I was looking for kids to play with. But this drummer, I'm trying to remember who you're referring. Was he in his teens or someone that older than us, or I'm trying to remember who you're referring to.
Scratching my head. I think he was, if my memory is correct, he was called Little Johnny or Little Jimmy or and his whole name, Little Jimmy, whatever, George, or Little Johnny George, but it was Little something or another,
Yeah, wow. Never heard of him. Wonder if he's still playing.
I have no idea. No idea. Well, anyway, I hauled that one out of the depths of my brain. Oh my God.
And that's what we're supposed to do. We're reminiscent.
We are indeed. So Paul Robeson, let's talk a little bit about Paul Robeson.
Sure.
I saw that play on Broadway with the incredible James Earl Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And Lloyd Richards directed it, and I got to meet both of them after the show. I was with Paul Harrison, and he knew James Earl, and we both knew Lloyd Richards from the O'Neill Center. But that was a thrill, and it was always in the back of my brain to produce that play, and it was just waiting for somebody to come along, and then, boy, you came along. And, I said, if there's a guy who can take on Paul Robeson, it's Floyd Patterson. And
well, thank you. That
was, there we go.
Quite a journey.
Early pictures.
Oh, I remember that day. I remember that shoot.
You do?
Yeah, that was quite a journey. That whole production, And it's funny when you do productions, when they conclude, it's like you want them to go on forever. You become a part of that whole experience, and you just want it to last. But yeah, that was a very challenge. I learned a lot about challenging yourself, because there was times early on in the script when you handed me that script. I said I have to memorize all of this, and I looked at first thing I did was not open up to the first page, but the last page to see how many of them there were, and it was a 79-page script, and I said, oh, I don't know if I don't know. You start doubting. You do that. You're like, I don't know if I can do this, and then when you get going, and then you get to page 10, and then 20, and then page 30, it's like, wait a minute, this is a mountain that we can definitely climb. And as I said, I mean, life's full of challenges, and that was one challenge that you offered me that I really am grateful for, because I think what it spells out is that if you put your mind to anything, you can do it.
Yeah.
But you have to believe. And I started to cast doubt immediately, like, there's no way I'm going to do this. And I'll be honest with you, you probably don't know this, because this isn't anything that I wanted to admit, but there was a time when I'd say I was probably at around maybe page 20, memorizing at home, and I'm like, I can't. I'm gonna have to call Danny and tell him, look, this isn't gonna work. I don't think I should just get out now, And it's that fear, and if you let it grow, it grows and grows, and I probably would have, done something that I would have regretted. But I'm glad that that you gave me the opportunity, and that I stuck with it, because it was, as I said, it was very, very rewarding and satisfying to know that that I could climb that mountain, that we all can if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, yeah. And we've taken the show out on kind of a little mini tour,
Sure.
occasionally, and and it's like every couple of years I seem to get a phone call from you saying, hey, when are we going to do Robeson again?
Yeah.
So it's still living with you, for sure.
It's tough to just let it die. I mean, you don't want to burn it out, but it's just, I mean, his story is so fascinating.
It is indeed. Yeah.
I mean, he's such a distinguished human being who did so much in his life, that telling his story and being a part of his story is just magnificent. So yeah, it's tough to just say, well, this is it, we won't be doing this anymore. It's tough. You just want to keep going.
Yeah, and I mean, he's Paul Robeson's certainly an extraordinary historical figure, and I think a lot of kids today, young kids, teenagers, and so forth, if you toss that name out to them, they would have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to keep that stuff current.
Sure. Unfortunately, the later part of his life, as later part of Paul Robeson's life, it involved a bit of controversy in the things that he involved himself in, with the activism and so forth. And unfortunately, I think maybe in the eyes of some who remember him, they remember that versus all the things that he accomplished regarding prior to his involvement, and then he eventually was blacklisted and so forth. But still, the man was just amazing, and I think
they took his passport.
Yes. 8 years, from 1950 to 1958, they wouldn't allow him to travel. He couldn't even make a living, and when you do that to someone, you diminish them like that, it really takes its toll on you, to where it's very hard to survive or to get through that. But he did. But shortly after that, he retired from public life, and then, as you know the story, he went to live with his sister, and then he passed on in the mid-70s. But what he did with his life was just truly amazing. And wherever I get an opportunity to tell his story, I would never say no. I would love to do it again. If that could be arranged. Again, I mean, I know that you can do shows over and over and over again, but as I said, there's an opportunity there. I would never say no, not to that story. Paul Robeson was an amazing man.
Yeah,
amazing.
And there's actually a local connection, because for some period of time he lived just down in Enfield on Route
Right.
75. That house is still there.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Right now. Yeah. You're right.
And his son, I think, went to technical high school. I think
That's what I heard. Yeah. That's exactly what I heard. I talked to some people that said they knew him, or they knew that I don't think they were in his classes, but they knew that he was there at the same time they were. But yeah, that's what I had also heard. But he did have a house in Enfield, and actually, the whole unfortunate thing that happened to him with him being blacklisted and so forth, and all that was happening, that basic communism witch hunt that went on in the 50s. That's the reason that he had to leave his house. He couldn't afford to make a living because he was there from 1940 to 1952, and he had to sell his house. I mean, he couldn't. It all took all his records off the shelf, and it was a huge fear anyway among all Americans at that time because of the Cold War and communism and then McCarthyism and so forth, everything happening at the time. But then for Paul to be as courageous as he was, I think scared a lot of people, a lot of black people, because I think there were a lot of black folks that were like, look, Paul, we have enough challenges in our lives. And now you're coming out and saying that Russia's the place to live because there's no prejudice there. No, they have written in their constitution legislation against discrimination. That's the place to live. We have enough going on. And now to bring this in to kind of feed the fire of McCarthyism and the witch hunt and people implicating each other and being forced to implicate others. It was a fearful time, and a lot of people weren't ready to make that sacrifice. Paul had no problem with it. No problem with standing up, and I don't care what I have to do. I'm gonna say what I've got to say, and there's not many people that'll walk that line, that'll sacrifice like that. Truly amazing, his story, and so many other things that he's done. I mean, we could go on and on and on. I could, as you knew, all the things that he did, and I can't even comprehend the kind of courage and self-determination that he had, and he spoke and sang in over 26 languages. I mean, he was truly a Renaissance man, just and in the most racist time in America, and here he is, achieving this distinction that. It's just truly amazing. I can go on and on and on about him, but he was the man.
Well, if anybody's watching and listening, and you don't really know much about Paul Robeson or anything at all about Paul Robeson, go to the library and get a book. There's some interesting biographies and an extraordinary man for sure. Yeah. So, how did you find your passion for the theater? So, did it begin with Robeson, or had you done other things?
Well, no. What I actually did was in 1996 is actually when I started thinking more and more about how do I get into acting? What do I do? Take classes? What do I do? Where do I go? So I went over to the drama studio. I went over there, Steve Hayes' place, the drama studio. And it was a great experience. A lot of kids, a lot of productions, lighthearted productions, and that's where actually it started. Where I don't say started, but that was the first place that I went to. And I remember my daughter was young, my oldest daughter, very young, and I remember bringing her to a rehearsal one time, and there was a scene in one of the productions we were doing where I had to play someone who was involved in a fight, and I had to throw the girl. It was a young girl. I had to throw her down or pretend to throw her down on the ground. And I remember my young daughter, she was about 4 or 5 years old, saw that and became scared and started crying, thought that I was really in a fight. So we had to stop the rehearsal, and because we had no idea that her reality was different from what we knew to be reality. And but that's where it all started. I started there, and with Steve, and did like maybe a season there, and took some classes there, with Ben Scranton and Steve Hayes, and they taught me the basics, and you're always developing and growing, but they basically showed me the ropes, and it was great experience. But that's where it started in 1996. Yeah, and then when that finished, then I stopped over to see you to see what was going on in your neck of the woods, and I'm glad I did.
I'll tell you one of the most memorable moments from our production of Paul Robeson, outside of the production itself, was when your dad came to see you perform, and he apparently had never ever seen you perform before.
Sure.
And here you are portraying Paul Robeson, and for those of you who aren't sure or don't know, Floyd's dad was Floyd Patterson, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world. I just remember him walking. Our entrance back in those days was down the alley, if you recall. And sure. I just remember him walking down the alley, and he was I think he was a little bit late, if I remember, but it was a great meeting him, and I think he really appreciated that opportunity to see his namesake perform in a different kind of thing. I mean, boxing's a performance in a sense, right?
Sure. And it actually is, because I've had conversations with him about that, and he talks about how it's important that you want to win, you want to put on a show. It's a show.
Yeah.
You want to put on a good show for the audience. They want to see a fight. That's what that's what they're there for.
Right.
But that was a special evening that he was there, because as you said, he'd never seen me in a theatrical production perform. So it was nice. It's a special moment, special evening.
Yeah. And then some years later, we took the show down to what was the town in New York?
That was New Paltz. We were SUNY New Paltz. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Right. And this was after your dad had passed away.
Sure.
But there were a whole group of people there and friends of his who wanted to see the show, and they had us come down in there and do the show. So that was one of the other times we brought it back.
Yeah. That was in 2013. Yeah. As I was just looking at some media from that, because we did an interview with NPR, actually right in your office. We did an interview just before that performance. But that was 2013. Yeah, that was very memorable. We had a nice audience for that.
Yes.
It was nice.
Yeah, it was a very nice audience for that. Yeah. It was a little sentimental too,
Sure.
Yeah. What are you doing to stay creative in this crazy COVID-19 time?
Oh, I've been learning songs, and I've been learning songs because I still have shows that I still. It's funny, I didn't think I would get any calls for any shows, but I'm getting calls, and I'm doing shows, and I'm also doing something that I should have done a long time ago, and that is appreciate balance. The time off and the long period of time in which many shows were canceled, I spent more time with family and friends, my grandkids, and love every minute of it. And I'm like, wow, I need to do this more often. You need to do it, period. I mean, sometimes you get caught up in your routine so much that you lose sight of balance, and balance is everything. It truly is. So what this brought home to me, this whole situation, is that it's not so much necessarily about like being bored or not finding things to do or whatever, but just kind of reassessing, where you are in your life and what's really important. Sure. And the time that I've spent, with family, and that I continue to spend with family, and as I said, mainly my grandkids. I got 3 grandkids, and when they get with me, it's grandpa this, grandpa that. I mean, they're running me into the ground, but it's a good running into the ground. It's just beautiful, and it just reminded me that we're not here for that long, so we really need to focus on what's important. So I'm not in any way trying to imply that playing and performing isn't important. I'm just saying that I was doing so much of it that, and when you're inside looking out, you can't be outside looking in. So it's a different view, and you're so wrapped up in it that I got to play here, I got to play there, I got to play there. Well, when are you going to take time off? Well, I got to play. I'll find a way. you really don't. So this kind of forced me to say, hey, look, let's
Yeah, and
let's
the days go by, they slip
let's do
through
what's
your
necessary.
hands. You know.
I don't want to, when my kids and everybody's all grown up, and then I'm saying, hey, come see me. I take me to the park. I'm too old to walk. Take me to the park. Well, you didn't have time for us, so we don't want that to happen. But I'm just saying,
that's the old cats in the cradle.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. I'd like to see you if you don't mind. I'd like to, Dad, if I could find the time.
if I can find the time, right?
So, but you realize what's important, and that's what this has really, really showed me. Yeah, playing, making money. Hey, you're always going to have bills to pay. Do what you enjoy, but also keep the most important things close to your heart, because that's what you need to do.
Do your grandkids have a nickname for you?
They used to call me Grandpa Floyd, but now it's just Grandpa.
Just Grandpa? Yeah.
Grandpa. Hey, Grandpa. It's always Grandpa. They come to my shows too. As a matter of fact, the last 2 or 3 of them, I was performing, because most of the shows now, it's nice out, it's warm. Most of the shows are outside, and plus with the restrictions and everything going on, they're only really allowing outside performances. So
Yeah.
a lot of the places I'm playing, it's family kind of atmosphere. So they come and they have a ball. I mean, and I love it too, because I've never had them come to so many shows. Usually it's when we play the Summit View in Holyoke, it's outside, there's tables and everything. They'll come there, but I'm playing so many different venues now that have patios that they're really enjoying it, and I'm enjoying it too. I love having them there.
So
Give them a microphone, let them sing along.
Is that mostly solo stuff you're doing, or
Yes.
anything with the band?
Yes.
Or?
Well, yeah, the band had quite a few jobs lined up. We also had a wedding in Boston that we were supposed to do in November. That got changed. We had quite a few jobs, but a lot of them got canceled. A lot of them were canceled or rescheduled due to everything that's going on now. So I do mostly solos and duos, and smaller venues.
Yeah.
I actually have a couple of parties that I'm doing this Saturday, a doubleheader this Saturday. But I would say probably 80% of the shows, or maybe even a higher percentage of that, are all lower key shows in which we're not looking at huge crowds, and it's been great. I mean, I do that, and when I get calls to go out with the band, I'll go out and play with the band. See, my guys play with different. They'll play with different situations. Some of them have their own things going on. So if I get a call and it's a good deal and everybody's interested, I get them all together, and like MGM called us a few times, and we went down and played and had a really good time. And so I mean, whatever comes up. I mean, if it's something we all want to get together and do, we do. But it's not like the 90s or even the 80s where we were going anywhere for anything. Things change, as I was telling you about reassessing where you are in your life. It's not really about playing anywhere and everywhere and not caring what you make. And I mean, when you're young, you go anywhere and you have that fire, that passion, but you're not the same person that you are as you go through the stages in life. You change, and your prioritization is different, and you how you define your Friday or Saturday night changes. And actually, I can summarize. It's called getting old. That's what it's called. It's called getting old. But I still enjoy playing. No matter, I don't care if it's a band, a solo thing. I don't care what it is, as long as I'm doing what I love. And I think everybody should always be true to what's in your heart and do what you love. I mean, I've come across some musicians that say that they haven't played in years and they don't think they're going to go back to it. I could never envision that, never playing, because it's a part of who I am.
Yeah, sure. Post Paul Robeson, there are a few other things that you got involved with at the Majestic. You recall those?
Yep.
One of them being a Shakespeare.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
The Winter's Tale.
Winter's Tale.
Yeah, yeah. That was directed by Liz Zeminski, who
yes, when you mentioned your name, I said, wow, I haven't seen her in quite a while.
Yeah,
quite a long time.
Yeah. And then I don't know how many years now, you were the host for Open Mic Night How many years was that? Do
Oh,
you recall?
the open mic nights were, that was a, wow. How many years did we do that? Was that 13 years?
I don't know. We're still doing it with Freddie Marion, you know?
No, I know, but I'm saying
Yeah.
the years that I was with you, I think it was, wow. It was quite a few, but that was a great time. A
Yeah.
great time. That was fun. A lot of fun. All the
Yeah.
talented people that showed up and really made that happen.
We did have some really talented people show up too.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some clunkers, but you know, sometimes the clunkers were as much fun as anything
Well, that's
else.
what makes it, you never know what you're going to get, but I
You
mean,
never know. Yeah.
that's what makes it fun,
Yeah. Do let's see. So if you're doing a show or even playing a gig, do you have a kind of a pre-show routine that you go through?
Pre-show routine. It's funny when I'm doing a gig, I just get everything ready and go in there and make it happen. I don't really, I think I had more of a pre-show routine when I did a theatrical production.
Yeah.
Like for instance, for Paul Robeson, when they would go through the intro and there's the talking and so forth. I can remember always keeping in my mind that, at the time that we were doing it, in the late 90s, my daughters were very young. And so I would always dedicate each show to them and just really immerse myself totally into the production. I would do that anyway, but I always had them on my mind, and I would carry, a picture of each of them in my pocket, in my vest pocket. And if I didn't have a picture with me, I'd always have something that they either gave me or something that reminded me of them that was from them. I would take with me. So I felt like I was on stage with them, or I was taking them with me throughout the journey. It was always like a ritual for every Robeson show that we did. So I think I probably had more of, as you say, a pre-show thought process or whatever, with theater, because as I said, with music, I just walk on and just do my thing, because in a way, when I'm on stage, I'm not really portraying anyone. I'm being myself, but I'm doing other people's, musical compositions or whatever, interpreting them and giving them back to the audience in the way that I do. But I just feel like I'm just being more me. We're on stage, I'm a character. And I'm drawing on experiences, drawing on things and bringing that to life. But I think, as I said, music, I just go on and here I am and let's get going. Let's count it down and have some fun and just have a good time, So I guess I'm not really too much for the, getting myself ready, too much. And maybe I should. Maybe that would help me to deliver better if I did concentrate more on that. But my process was always, let's get on there and make it happen,
Yeah. I mean, I think that was pretty much the same with, when Todd would introduce you as the host of the open mic, I mean, you're just right out on the stage and, taking the bull by the horns, as it were, and going with it. Yeah.
You know what's funny too? About that, about I thought to myself that all the time that I was doing that I should prepare some sort of monologue. And I always would feel like, no, that's not, it would make me nervous to do that. I was more comfortable going out improvising, just being myself, reading the audience, being impulsive, seeing who's there, working off whoever's there. One of my idols is Don Rickles, the late Don Rickles.
Oh,
now, I don't want to say he was one of my idols because I enjoy going out and harassing people or insulting them, but his ability to improv out of nowhere and just go. I just thought that was truly amazing. And I remember reading where he said, someone asked him, do you write and prepare your material? He goes, no, I don't write anything. I'm just being myself. And I thought that's just amazing. So I'm just more comfortable just working in the moment, I mean, granted, with Paul Robeson, we took months to prepare that and we brought it out. It's a different kind of presentation. But when I'm kind of on my own turf, doing my own thing, playing a little music, I just improv. I just being myself. Whatever comes. I'm so comfortable with that. you know. So that's what I kind of struggled a little bit with. I shouldn't say struggled, but I was on the fence about preparing monologues. There were a few things that I would prepare. Then I'd say, nah, you know, just go out there and be yourself. Do what's comfortable. And it seemed to work because the audience had fun and I had a ball.
Right.
I had a good time.
You know, speaking of Don Rickles, when he was a younger man, he was a pretty damn good character actor.
Really?
He was actually in a film with my Uncle Ted. It was a World War II submarine film called Run Silent, Run Deep. And my Uncle Ted, who spent the entire World War II in the submarine service and got commissioned and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Well, he got hired as a consultant for the film. And then Robert Wise, who directed the film, you know, gave him a part in the film, and so he's all over. Uncle Ted's all over the film, but so is Don Rickles. You know.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Run Silent, Run Deep.
Wow, I got to go see that because I love Don Rickles.
Yeah,
he's just amazing, amazing man.
How about do you recall any interesting or important audience feedback you've gotten after a show? You know, either Robeson or even one of your gigs, or
you say important feedback,
or just interesting.
Yeah, I can remember. Wow, I remember. What's funny is I'll get like musically, I'll get sometimes people that will approach me and say, you know, I used to come listen to you when I was in college, or my mother, you brought me up on stage when I was 8 years old, and I never forgot that. Or someone coming up to me saying, you know, you sung Happy Birthday to my daughter, you know, things like that they, again, this is probably terrible to put it like this, but I'm going on stage, I'm having fun, but in a way it's kind of another day at the office. You know, I'm doing my thing, I'm having fun, and I get wrapped up in what I'm doing. And after doing it for so many years, you don't remember everything that you've ever done. But when people do come back to you and they say that you gave them a memory, you gave them a memory that they hold dear and that they never forgot. That's beautiful. I love to hear that. At one Paul Robeson show we did, there was a lady at the very end of the show. When I came out, she was in tears, and I couldn't understand why. I thought something was wrong. But she came up to me and she said, "You know, you brought him back." She said, "I lived through all the experiences that he went through, and I remember him very clearly. And you brought him back." And she was in tears, and that was very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Was that was at the New Paltz show, I think?
I'm sorry, this was
at the New Paltz show?
This was actually at the Majestic.
Oh, no kidding.
At the Majestic Theater. She sat right in the front row, this lady, and she said she remembered so much about him. And when she said that was, you know, again, when you're doing something, any kind of performer, you're doing it. You don't have an effect on, you don't know the kind of effect you're going to have on people, unless maybe you're a comedian and you know that, well, I got to make people laugh. So if they're laughing, I know that I'm reaching them. Sometimes you don't know to the very end of a play what exactly, when you hear back from the audience, what exactly they got out of that.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just very interesting sometimes how, you know, how they interpreted your performance, what they got out of it, what they didn't get. You know how you say, or it's kind of common in theater, that every night you're going to have a different audience. There'll be different reactions to different things. You know, it's not always necessarily going to be the same, you know. And I just thought it was interesting that this show had that kind of impact on this lady at the end of the show. But it was nice, you know. It was very nice. You know, you want people to enjoy your work, and again, it was all well worth all the work that we put into it. You know? Well, you know the feeling when you put everything together and then it's done, and then you hear the feedback. If you hear criticism, you listen to that, And like I had somebody correct me. Actually, you know, it's funny in Paul Robeson, there's a scene where I have to waltz, and I don't know how to do a waltz, and it was pretty obvious to the director. Christina, she directed the first one in 1998, and she said, "Listen, I got to show you how to do that." So we rehearsed it again. She got to show you how to, you know, take your wife as Londa, and when you spin around, you need to do it like this. And then there was a Russian word that I was saying that was wrong. That someone walked up to me at the end of the show and explained that the word I was saying tovarish, which is a Russian word which means friend, comrade. And they said, no, it's tovarish. That's how you have to say it. You know, so people correct you. They you know, I mean, you have to stay open and listen, you know. I mean, in the end result, I'm going to do what the director says, you know, because what I'm doing is through their, you know, his or her vision. That's my job to make that happen. But again, if people see things and, you know, an audience feedback, they're the ones you're there, you know, trying to please and to give them an escape. So, you know, you can't like put a wall up. You know, you have to be open and humble.
Yeah.
And in this business, that's a big challenge for a lot of people because we all got egos like this. We all want to think we're great, but you know, you don't. If you don't keep an open mind and an open heart, you don't grow. So, and with some humility in there as well.
So. How about do you recall any stage bloopers or kind of major sort of flub ups that happened in any of the shows you've done? Or?
Oh wow. Wow. Trying to think, man, it's just always embarrassing moments. You know, I think there's probably been some things that have been so embarrassing. I shoved them back into my subconscious and I can't recall. They were that bad. Wow. You know, in this business, when you make mistakes, you just have to take a bow and embrace them because there's no way to run from them. You have to laugh at yourself. I remember during Paul Robeson, my suspenders came off. And I realized something that night. My suspenders were coming off. And I'm like, wow, they're coming off. And so I'm thinking, you know, I got a tuxedo on. So I'm like, you know what? The only way that the audience is going to know that you got a problem is if you bring them to that problem. So make it part of the character. Write it in. So I took my jacket off and I just took my suspenders off, put them over in a chair and, you know, to make it look like, you know, this is what he's doing. This was written, you know. So, I mean,
part of the show.
And I also remember there was a guy that was coughing one time really, really loud. I mean, a hacking cough, a cough that was probably just, you know, seconds away from somebody calling 911. Yeah. And I remember I just kept going. I didn't stop. But I remember you giving me the advice one time saying, listen, if that ever happens again, you can address that person. Address him. Is that man okay? Is everything okay? But stay in character. If you stay in character, things flow, you know? And I never forgot that because I was always like, no, stay in character. Don't even ignore it. It's not happening. But yeah, I'm sure there's been quite a few embarrassing things. Hell, I did a wedding one time and I think I was supposed to introduce them and I did, and I introduced the first couple. I think their last name was Greenberg, and I said Goldberg. And they looked at me like, what in the hell? And the only thing I could think of saying was, well, you get the idea, you know. Oh, no. Everybody laughed, and I just, you know, I mean, you just have to do this. When you have to take a bow, you have to embrace it, you can't hide, you know, and you know what? You know what the sad reality is? There's going to be more embarrassing things that are going to happen. There's going to be things that you can't control that are going to happen. And it's not really about what happens. It's about how you handle it, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, yeah. You know, this is a standard question, although we get from the audiences all the time. But the answers from you performers and you actors the answers are kind of interesting, you know, because they're a little bit different. But here's the question, because if we had a live audience, somebody would be saying, well, Floyd, you're doing Paul Robeson, and you kind of talked about it a little bit, you know, trying to memorize those first 25 pages or something, you know. So anyway, the question is, how do you learn all those lines? Do you have a process for learning all those lines?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. my process is, well, they're visions. They're all visions, pictures. In other words, with Paul Robeson, I couldn't tell you what was on page 53. But the time I got to page 53, I had a picture in my mind of what that scene looked like. So my point is measuring scenes like Paul Robeson. I walk out on stage, Act 1. I just couldn't go to Carnegie Hall. I called Lawrence Brown and told him I just couldn't go. I'm settled now here in Philadelphia with my sister Marion. She's a retired school teacher, you know. She dug out one of my old concert suits, and I said, "Oh, Marion, for you, I'll wear it." Now, all along I'm saying that, I'm thinking of Carnegie Hall, why I can't go, the problems I'm having with it. It's like, it's thoughts. So when you remember that, it's almost like how I learn songs. If you put a melody, notes to words, they're easier to memorize. You just memorize them because you got the notes, and I'm playing the bass, and I'm playing what note goes with what, and you're syncing it all up. It's the same thing for me, my process with learning lines. It's the pictures in my mind. And then sometimes I'm actually picturing the page that I know where I'm going is at the bottom of the page. And then my line goes to the top. And then there's another paragraph. It's visions. And you're just picturing that. And I think everybody will agree to this, that repetition, go over it and over it and over it again, to the point where even if you wanted to forget it, you just can't, because it's part of, just like that song that you sing every day on the way to work, or one of your favorite songs, you can't get that song out of your mind. Well, I can't get these I can't get the script out of my mind, because just like what I just recited to you, because I've done it for so many years.
Yeah.
You know, it just stays there. So it's really repetition. And with me, you know, learning lines, it's having a vision. I don't care if it's the page with the paragraph, what you're thinking, what you're picturing in your mind as you say those words. But you know, and I also found too with Paul Robeson that it started to become easier and easier and easier, because it was more conversational. It just started to become easier because you're getting in the rhythm of things. At first it was like, oh, guys struggle through 10 or 15 pages, but then after a while it starts to flow, and then you get excited. Wow, I got all this down. I'm almost to the end, or I'm almost halfway, and then you just keep going, and you start firing yourself up.
Yeah, and that piece is really a conversation with the audience for the most, pretty much the entire play.
Yeah. I also, my daughters would say, "Dad, I have to do a presentation in front of the class. I'm kind of nervous." And I said, "Listen, here's what you got to do. It's very, very powerful to be on stage. The audience will go wherever you go. So when you get up there, know your material, study it, know it. But look them in the eye. When you look some of them in the eye, and you'll turn the table, you'll all of a sudden put them on stage. Just look at them. Just be confident and know what you're going to say. Take a deep breath before you go, and you'll be fine." And then they did it, and they come back and, wow, it worked. So whatever I can learn, you want to pass on.
Did you have that same kind of process for the Shakespeare, for A Winter's Tale as well? I mean, how'd you handle Shakespeare?
I'm sorry?
How did you handle Shakespeare?
That was a challenge. I think that was a big challenge, because it was just the scripts, the words themselves. So I was in a production with Christina Bendikas in '97, before she did Robeson with us. Midsummer Night's Dream. And what I had to do was forget about the words. In other words, stop getting tied up with the words and understand what the subtext is. What is the feeling of what you're saying? And then when you get the feeling right, have the words, align with that feeling. So it was a challenge, because it was just different, and I'd never done it before. I mean, there's some Shakespeare actors that are like, pristine, but I'm an amateur. I'm somebody out there just challenging myself to do something different. But I did find it very challenging, because it was new and something that I wasn't used to. But it's all about challenges, though. That's how you, that's how you get better. So but I will say that was probably the most challenging role. Any of those two Shakespeare plays, but they were fun. They were still fun. Good time.
Yeah. Hey, Carly, I don't think we've seen all the photographs that we have. Do we have some more photographs?
We do. We can certainly cycle through some of those. Well,
Yeah.
I have a lovely one of your band here.
Hey.
Oh, wow. Boy.
Who's that?
That was a fun combination right there.
I see Luther, right?
Wow, that's an old one. Yeah. Luther and I get together every now and then and still play. And so does LaDawn Owens.
Okay.
She's there to my right or my left. She's great. And actually the sax player, Adam Call, we have a gig next Thursday. We're going to be performing in Southwick at the Ranch Golf Club. We'll be playing out there at 6 p.m. Adam and I, we play a lot together when we do duos. But yeah, that was a fun combination, that group.
So when you're doing these gigs, Floyd, you're playing your bass, right?
Right.
And only your bass. You're just slapping the bass. You don't have any other instrument, right?
Well, no. I mean, I was playing every now and then. I would bring a keyboard and play little parts to enhance, certain things. When we go out as a smaller combination, like a trio, or a 4-piece. But with horns, they cover everything. So we don't. I just play the bass. I just play the bass and sing.
So when you're doing a solo and you're playing the bass, are you playing the melody on the bass rather than the bass line?
Well, that's funny you asked that, because what I'm doing is I'm singing. I'm actually doing everything I ever did. I'm singing and playing, but without a band. I'm doing it with musical accompaniment. That in which the bass track is removed, and so is the vocals. So it's basically a canned band. The only thing, some people have likened it to karaoke, but it's not karaoke, because to me karaoke implies, amateurness. You got the words up, you're reading the words. Sure. Kind of doing it for ha-has. I prepare everything that I perform. It's just that I have musical accompaniment and even when I do a duo with Adam Call on the sax. We we have musical accompaniment that we bring with us, that we play. So I'm actually playing to the songs. I'm doing everything I've ever done. And there's some songs where I just put the bass down and I just play, because a lot of times I like to go out in the audience and there's that Don Rickles thing again. Go out in the audience and work them, just play with them, and a track ends, go out and talk with them. So I try to keep it multifaceted and fun and truly connect with them.
Yeah. How about Carly? Do we have a few more pictures back there?
The only other one we have is this wonderful headshot.
Oh yeah, look at that guy.
Oh gee, I wish I still looked like that.
When was this taken?
Yeah, I remember that shoot.
That's a nice picture.
That was he's no longer there anymore. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the guy's name in West Springfield. Great photographer though. His name slips my mind, but did some great work. Hey, thanks for bringing that up. I like that picture. I'm gonna hold on to that. One day I hope I can look like that again.
But yeah, those are the only ones we have. Unfortunately, we don't have anything from your Shakespeare work, so I'll have to dig a little deeper in our archives.
Yeah, Liz might have something. We'll see next week.
Well, there we go. Yeah. So tune in next week if you want to see a Shakespeare work then.
Yeah. Well, let me go audition for one. I'll audition for you. The next Shakespeare production, I'll come and audition.
Good.
Othello. There you go, Othello.
That headshot. Yeah, you definitely want to get a copy of that, and so when it comes time when it's like you're getting the grandkids to take grandpa to the park. You can break it out and you say, "Hey, this is what I used to look like."
I just take me to the park. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to aspiring actors or aspiring performers? Yeah, would you? I'm sure people come up to you, and People
I would-
come up to me all the time, and they're kind of enchanted with the idea of being involved in the theater, but then they kind of discover that it's like a lot of work, right? And so that enchantment sort of wears off, and they go away.
I think what I would tell someone who's aspiring to get into any kind of show business, theater, dance, comedy, anything at all, is just to never let anyone tell you or define your destiny. Never let anyone tell you that you need to work a day job, or you need to do this, you need to do that. Don't have anyone defining what your destiny should be, because that's what I was told a good part of my life. That, well, what else are you going to do? You know how many people I have come across as I was growing up? Hey, what do you do? Or not growing up, but when I was actually gigging steady. What do you do? I'm a musician. Well, do you do anything else? You know what I'm saying? Don't ever let anyone trivialize what's in your heart. Be true to your heart, follow it, and don't let anyone be an obstruction. If they're going to enhance your journey and help you to get where you're going to go by helping you to learn and grow, great. But don't ever let anyone stand in the way of your dream or what's truly in your heart. Because if you're not going to live truthfully and be true to what's in your heart and your passions, you're going to be miserable. You're going to be miserable. Yeah. And ironically enough, I'm playing and I am working a day job. So, but I'm just saying, you do what, as I said, you've got to follow your heart. Because if you don't, as I said, you're the one that has to live with your decisions, and always be humble. Keep an open heart and an open mind. I said that earlier, because that's how you grow. Like even in a theatrical production, you may be the lead and the star, but if you didn't have that world-class crew behind the stage, and stage managers, production, lights, makeup, if you didn't have all that crew making things happen, you wouldn't be such a great dynamic lead. You need your team, and you got to recognize everyone and bring some humility with you wherever you are, because that keeps you grounded, and it keeps you on a healthy path.
Yeah.
And
well,
we don't always do that, because, as I said, we got those egos. It's all about us, and it's not. It's not.
Well, let's give the folks a little plug. So you mentioned you've got something coming up this weekend, Saturday night. What else?
Saturday, yeah, they're two privates. They're two private engagements that I'm doing Saturday. Sunday, I'll be at the Shortstop Grill, which is in Westfield on Route 20. Sure. I'll be there at 6 p.m. That's Sunday, and then next Thursday, I'm at the Adam Call, sax player, and myself. We'll be performing at the Ranch Golf Club in Southwick. We'll be out on the patio. That starts at 6 p.m. We'll be playing 6 to 9 there.
All right, folks, you heard it here. If you're around, go check out Floyd. It'd be a great. I promise you, it'll be a terrific show. It'll be for sure. Well,
thank you, Denny.
I'm running out of questions. I think. Thanks, Floyd. I appreciate it. This has been great having you on.
Thank you.
And I'm sure what happens. We don't get a ton of people watching it live, but then because this gets archived, right? So all of the behind the curtain episodes are archived. So folks can go to the Majestic Theater website, www.majestictheater.com, and locate any one of these episodes, including this one tonight with you. So that'll happen. We'll get probably 100, 120 people, something like that, maybe more even, checking it out during the week ahead. So it'd be great. So, Carly, how you doing?
So great to see you, Floyd. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Floyd.
Thanks.
Until next week. Thanks, guys.